Right, so the claim that I am doing a Reformation speech to is further research on stem cells benefits the medical field greatly, with the three secondary claims being why stem cell research is beneficial to the world, new research on stem cells proves relevancy on continuous stem cell research, and cases given in which stem cell treatment worked where no other treatment would. So as far as the first secondary claim goes, that being why stem cell research is beneficial to the world, most of what was given was factual evidence supporting stem cell research, such as what diseases it can cure and how the stem cells are received. But the issue with that is being that there isn't necessarily an argument in factual information or an argument of fact. And that's basically what I found for that. But the second supporting claim I found is that the research example used was where Dr. Junying Yu of Japan and James Thompson of the Wisconsin Genome Center managed to take a human or a mice skin cell and transform it into a stem cell by adding in 4 genes. And the issue that happened is that he failed to mention that 20% of the mice that received the treatment contracted cancer, and also that it was done exclusively on mice. And the third secondary claim given, that being that treatment was given using stem cells where it worked nowhere else, is the example given is Gordie Howe, who's a retired hockey player in Canada, who suffered a stroke, and it paralyzed most of his body and resulted in a deteriorating mental state. And he went down to Tijuana, Mexico, and received a treatment where they implanted stem cells in his brain to try and repair the injured tissue. And they said that within 8 hours he received, within 8 hours he was already walking again. But the treatment has received heavy criticism due to that it's a kind of an oddball case where no one else who's received the treatment has managed to have the same results, and also that there's a lack of regulation within Mexico's stem cell research. That's what I got. Thank you.
All right, well, the challenge on the first point is basically there's not an argument here because it simply describes what the benefits would be should stem cell research work appropriately. I did like the general challenge that you had here that said, that the data that we have on this is perhaps not yet reliable because the only research that's been cited so far is research on mice. That research also had complications that went along with it, and so the application to humans is a little bit limited. I think that's a good argument to be making on that particular point. But that's about as far as you go on that issue. And it seems to me like there might be alternative treatments that are available. Is there some dispute, for instance, about whether or not we're dealing with embryonic stem cells or adult stem cells? That might be where some controversy exists. And if there are successes, we ought to have measurable data on those kinds of things, and at the moment it's hard to make an inference. You challenged the example of Gordie Howe, and I like the idea that you challenged that. I do think you ought to be giving us some source for that. You say it was there haven't been any other cases where that's happened, so it's a lack of repeatability, and I don't know where that information comes from. There's also a lack of regulation in Mexico, and I don't know where that information comes from. So is the suggestion that the lack of regulation means that they did something other than what has been claimed to get Gordie Howe these results, or that that's what allowed them to get those results, and if we didn't have those kinds of regulations on stem cell, then maybe the advocate would be correct on this particular position. That was a little bit confusing. And, basically, you end pretty quickly, so it seems like there's probably room to talk about some other ideas here, but the main point that you're making at the beginning, that there's not really much of an argument here, it's simply a description of what stem cell research, what the promise holds. Does anybody dispute those kinds of things? I think that you need to develop this notion that there's a lack of argument here a little bit more. All right, thank you.